Samjoko. The three-legged crow doesn't just live near the sun. According to Korean mythology, it lives inside it. The Samjoko was the primary symbol of the Goguryeo Kingdom, which ruled from 37 BC to 668 AD. And in the Korean cosmic hierarchy of that era, it ranked above both the dragon and the Bonghwang, making it the single most powerful creature in the sky. Paintings of it appear on the walls of Goguryeo royal tombs, black-feathered and blazing with golden light, three thick legs splayed beneath a body surrounded by fire. In a tradition where the dragon represented emperors and the phoenix represented queens, the sun crow outranked them both. It wasn't just a symbol of power. It was a symbol of divine origin. The idea that the sun itself was alive, watching, and had chosen Korea as the place worth watching over. Elements of the Samjoko appear in South Korean national symbolism to this day. Cheollima. No mortal has ever ridden the cheollima, and according to Korean mythology, that's the whole point. Its name means thousand-ri horse, and one ri is roughly 0.4 kilometers, meaning this winged creature could travel the full length of the Korean peninsula, approximately 393 kilometers, in a single day. It has enormous feathered wings, a pale gold or white body, and a mane that moves like it's permanently caught in a gale. When a worthy rider failed to appear, the cheollima simply flew into the sky and stayed there, choosing the clouds over the indignity of being mounted by someone undeserving. It became a symbol not of heroism, but of aspirational excellence. The idea that greatness exists and is visible, but remains forever, just out of reach unless you prove yourself worthy. North Korea later adopted the cheollima as a state symbol of economic speed and collective ambition, erecting statues of it in Pyongyang that still stand today. Bonghwang. The Bonghwang is not a phoenix in the Western sense. It doesn't die, it doesn't burn, and it doesn't rise from ash. Instead, it is a composite creature assembled from the finest parts of multiple animals: the beak of a rooster, the face of a swallow, the breast of a goose, the neck of a snake, the back of a turtle, and the tail of a fish, all covered in feathers that cycle through 5 sacred colors. It rules over all birds and will only land on the paulownia tree, eating nothing but bamboo seeds, because it considers itself too noble to touch anything ordinary. Its appearance in the sky wasn't just a good omen. It was proof that the ruler below was genuinely virtuous, since the Bonghwang was believed to appear only during the reign of a truly just leader. Today it appears on the official presidential seal of South Korea, a 5,000-year-old creature still serving as the country's symbol of good governance. Haetae. The haetae is carved in stone outside Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul, and it has been standing guard there for centuries for a very specific reason. According to Korean geomancy, the mountain visible behind the palace is a fire mountain, and the haetae is the only creature powerful enough to hold that fire back. It has the stocky body of a lion, a mane of dark fur, and a single curved horn on its forehead, but its entire body is covered in overlapping armor-like scales that give it the appearance of a creature built for endurance rather than speed. Beyond fire suppression, it serves as the ultimate judge of human morality, capable of telling instantly whether a person has done wrong, which is why Joseon dynasty officials had it embroidered onto their court robes as a symbol of law. Seoul adopted it as the city's official mascot, making the haetae one of the few mythological creatures in the world that actively serves as a civic logo for a modern capital city. Girin. The girin is so gentle it refuses to step on a single blade of grass. It has the body of a deer or horse covered in iridescent dragon-like scales, branching antlers, and soft hooves, and it moves through the world with such supernatural care that some accounts describe it as seeming to hover just above the ground rather than touch it. It only punishes the wicked, and even then with reluctance. To the innocent, it is completely harmless. What makes the girin significant isn't its power, but its timing. It appears only at the birth or passing of a person of exceptional wisdom and virtue, meaning an emperor, a saint, or a great philosopher. Spotting one was essentially the universe confirming that someone genuinely extraordinary had just arrived in the world, or just left it. It shares ancestry with the Chinese qilin and Japanese kirin, but in Korea it became specifically tied to Confucian ideals of earned moral greatness. Dokkaebi. The dokkaebi is not born from a human death. It comes to life when an inanimate object, usually an old household tool like a broom or a worn-out sandal, absorbs enough human energy over decades, or when any object becomes stained with human blood. The earliest written record of a dokkaebi appears in a Silla-era tale from the memorabilia of the Three Kingdoms, compiled during the Goguryeo period, making these creatures one of the oldest documented beings in Korean mythology. They carry two famous items: the bangmangi, a magic club that can summon anything from thin air, and the gamtu, a hat that makes the wearer completely invisible. They are nearly unbeatable at Assyrium, traditional Korean wrestling, unless you grab their right side, their one documented weakness. Tall blue-green flames called dokkaebi fire signal their arrival. They can be tricksters, punishing the dishonest and cruel, but they just as readily reward the kind and innocent with sudden inexplicable wealth. Gumiho, a fox that survives for exactly 1,000 years, grows 9 silver-white tails, and gains the power to transform into anything at once, most often a breathtakingly beautiful young woman. The Korean gumiho is not like its Chinese cousin the hulijing, which is morally neutral, nor the Japanese kitsune, which often serves as a benevolent messenger. The Korean version is almost universally a predator, hunting human men specifically to consume their livers or hearts, depending on the account, in order to eventually shed its fox nature and become truly human. Its disguise is nearly perfect, but two things can unmask it: a 3-legged dog called the samjoku, which can see through any illusion a gumiho creates, and moonlight reflected in still water, which reveals the fox shape beneath the human face. In some versions, there is a redemption path. If the gumiho refrains from killing for 1,000 consecutive days, it can become human permanently. But in almost every telling of that story, something goes wrong just before the deadline. Samjoku. The samjoku exists for one purpose: to see what the gumiho doesn't want seen. It is a 3-legged dog. Some sources say 3-eyed, and the accounts conflict, that possesses the unique supernatural ability to perceive a fox spirit's true form no matter how perfect its human disguise. Where ordinary people, and even other supernatural beings, see only a beautiful woman, the samjoku sees the amber eyes, the flickering tail, the fox-like posture that never quite disappears. It is the gumiho's only reliable natural predator, and its presence in a story almost always signals that the fox spirit's deception is about to unravel. Outside of its relationship with the gumiho, it is a relatively minor creature, appearing in folktales primarily as a narrative device, rather than a being with its own mythology. Its name is sometimes confused with the Samjoko, the 3-legged crow, purely due to the similarity in spelling. They are entirely different creatures with nothing else in common. Yong. The Korean dragon carries a glowing orb called the uiju in its claws, and that orb is the source of its power over rain, rivers, and the natural world. Unlike European dragons, which hoard gold and breathe fire, the yong is a benevolent celestial being, long and serpentine, with 4 taloned legs, enormous antler-like horns, and no wings, yet it moves through clouds and water as naturally as through open air. According to tradition, it has 81 scales arranged in a 9x9 pattern, each representing yang energy. It governs water as the Bonghwang, or Dragon King, with different dragon kings ruling different seas, rivers, and lakes across Korea. The image of the yong became the official symbol of Seoul, And Joseon era white porcelain decorated with cobalt blue dragons remains among the most iconic art Korea ever produced. Where a Western dragon is a threat, the Korean yong is an authority, a presence that brings rain when the land is dry and floods when something has gone wrong. Emugi. The emugi is a dragon that didn't make it, not yet. It is a massive python-like serpent, hornless where a true yong would have antlers, living in rivers, caves, and mountain lakes, waiting. According to Korean mythology, it must either survive for 1,000 years or catch a yuiju orb falling from the sky in order to transform into a full dragon, and these orbs are extraordinarily rare. If a human sees an emugi in the moment of its attempted transformation, the attempt fails entirely, which, according to some accounts, is how the jangjamari variant was created. An emugi spotted by a child during its ascension attempt, its transformation ruined, now wandering the land in furious grief and burning everything it passes. The earliest record of the jangjamari appears in the Jibong Yuseol of 1614. Despite its frustrated ambition, the emugi itself is considered benevolent, and its sighting is regarded as good luck. A creature still in the process of becoming something greater, which Koreans across centuries apparently found worth respecting. Girriong. The girriong has the body of a dragon and the head of a rooster, and that combination is less absurd in Korean mythology than it sounds anywhere else. Because in Korean tradition, the chicken is a sacred animal, a creature tied to the dawn, to purity, and to divine announcement. The girriong's name literally means chicken dragon, and according to the Samguk Yusa, one of the founding royal bloodlines of the Kingdom of Silla, which ruled from 57 BC to 935 AD, traces directly back to a girriong egg. The Princess Lady Aryong was said to have been born from that egg, meaning one of Korea's three great ancient kingdoms owed its royal legitimacy to a rooster-headed dragon. The girriong also pulls chariots for important legendary figures, and is associated with the founding myths of multiple heroic lineages. It can kill with a single glance, despite its relatively peaceful nature, and Girriong Mountain in South Chungcheong Province, historically crowded with shamanic shrines and Buddhist temples, takes its name directly from this creature. Inonjo. The inonjo appears on the walls of royal Goguryeo tombs, painted in terracotta and black. A large bird with the face of a woman where its head should be. Most depictions are female, and the creature is believed to have served as a guide or guardian for the souls of the dead, helping them navigate from the human world into whatever came next. It has the wings and body of a crane or phoenix-like bird, but the face is fully, unmistakably human, serene, with long dark hair flowing back from it, as if caught in an eternal celestial wind. It sings beautifully and carries messages between heaven and earth. For centuries, it remained a piece of specialized archaeological knowledge rather than mainstream culture, until the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics opening ceremony featured a dramatic inonjo performance that was watched by hundreds of millions of people worldwide and sparked a sudden widespread curiosity about what exactly this creature was and where it had come from. Seonnyeo. The seonnyeo are immortal celestial women who descend from heaven to bathe in mountain waterfalls, and the only thing that keeps them tethered to the sky is a feathered robe. Take that robe, and they cannot return home. The most famous Korean folktale involving them, The Woodcutter and the Fairy, follows exactly that logic. A woodcutter, acting on a deer's advice, hides a seonnyeo's robe while she bathes, trapping her on earth and eventually making her his wife. They serve as the female divine lieutenants of Cheonjiwang, the supreme ruler of heaven and earth, and are associated with good fortune, fertility, and longevity for those who encounter them with respect. They represent the perpetual tension between the celestial and the human, beings whose grace and beauty make mortals desperate to keep them earthbound, while their nature pulls them constantly back toward the sky, toward a home that is always one stolen robe away from being unreachable. Gwisin. A gwisin cannot move on until whatever kept it here is resolved. An injustice left uncorrected, a task left unfinished, a grief too sharp to release. It floats several inches above the ground, legless and translucent, wearing the white hanbok traditionally reserved for Korean funerals, long black hair hanging across its face like a curtain. The cheonnyeo gwisin is the spirit of a woman who died unmarried, considered among the most dangerous because of the particular bitterness of that unresolved life. The mongdal gwisin is the male equivalent, an unmarried man's spirit wandering in similar grief. The mul gwisin drowned, and now pulls others into the water. Most unsettling is the dalgyal gwisin, which has a perfectly smooth, featureless egg where its face should be. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, and whose sighting is considered an omen of imminent death. The gwisin influenced Western horror significantly. The aesthetic of the grudge traces directly back to this tradition, and the floating pale woman with dark hair covering a faceless expression has become one of the most recognizable horror images in the world. Bulgae, the king of Goguryeo, the Korean kingdom of eternal darkness, has one problem. His realm has no light. His solution is the bulgae, enormous black dogs whose fur burns with orange and red fire, which he sends out repeatedly to steal the sun and the moon and drag them back into the darkness. The problem is that the sun is too blindingly hot for even a fire dog to hold in its jaws. So when a bulgae bites the sun, it immediately releases it in pain. The moon is the opposite, so bone-chillingly cold that the dog freezes and drops it. That is a solar eclipse when the dog bites the sun, and a lunar eclipse when it bites the moon. The king never accepts defeat and keeps sending more dogs, which is why eclipses keep happening, and why they always end. The dog always lets go. The name itself breaks down simply. Bul means fire, and gae means dog in Korean, making it one of the most literally named creatures in the entire mythology. Bulgasari. The name means impossible to kill, and the creature earns it. According to legend, a Buddhist monk imprisoned during the persecution of Buddhists in the Goguryeo dynasty, which lasted from 918 to 1392 AD, shaped a tiny figure from leftover rice paste mixed with needles. It came to life immediately and began eating metal. Needles first, then nails, then blades, then armor, growing larger with every piece it consumed, its body swelling into a chimera with a bear's frame, an elephant's trunk, tiger's claws, rhino eyes, and a bull's tail. The more weapons it ate, the stronger it got, which made it simultaneously a monster and a weapon against the corrupt rulers whose armories it demolished. It can only be destroyed by fire, and even that is disputed by some versions of the legend. It inspired a 1985 North Korean film called Bulgasari, and its legacy continued into the 2021 Korean drama Bulgasal. Immortal souls, a creature born from oppression that became too powerful for even its creators to control. Dokkaebi. The dokkaebi is a headless ghost, not decapitated, not wounded, just absent above the shoulders. A human torso and legs moving with a purpose its missing face cannot express. It appears at crossroads, borders, and thresholds, the liminal spaces where the physical world and the spirit world press closest against each other. Unlike the gwisin, which haunts specific locations tied to personal injustice, the dokkaebi is associated with more active malice, the power to bring sickness and misfortune to those it encounters, without the gwisin's logic of unresolved grief explaining why. It belongs to the chaotic and unpredictable corner of Korean spirit taxonomy, a being that doesn't haunt so much as wander, and doesn't want so much as disturb. Encounters with it are described in folk tradition as deeply disorienting, partly because of its appearance, and partly because there is no negotiation possible with something that has no face to read and no voice to answer. Jangjamari. The jangjamari are fat, bloated water spirits whose bodies are completely wrapped in dripping dark seaweed, and they spend their time in rivers and coastal waters playing traditional Korean musical instruments. That's essentially the entire description, And it is stranger than it sounds. Enormous, waterlogged creatures, covered in seaweed, drifting through black water, performing concerts for nobody. They are among the most comedic and bizarre figures in Korean mythology. Jovial where most water spirits are threatening, absurd where most supernatural beings are imposing. They are believed to be connected to the souls of those who drowned, which gives them a melancholy undertone beneath the strangeness. Restless dead who found an odd peace in music and in water, too waterlogged for heaven and too musical for hell, just floating there and playing. Unyo. According to the Samguk Yusa, the 13th century text that preserves Korea's oldest foundation myths, a bear and a tiger were given a challenge by the god Hwanung. Remain inside a cave for 100 days, eating nothing but 20 cloves of garlic and a bundle of mugwort, and they would become human. The tiger lasted 20 days before fleeing into the sunlight. The bear endured all 100, and when she emerged, she had become a woman. Unyo, the bear woman. She prayed beneath the sacred sandalwood tree, called the Sindansu, asking to be given a child, and Hwanung descended and married her. Their son was Dangun, who Korean tradition holds founded Goguryeo, the first Korean kingdom, in 2333 BC, making Unyo the divine mother of the Korean nation itself. Her story is the oldest transformation narrative in Korean mythology, a creature that became something greater, not through magic or combat, but through sheer, silent endurance of exactly what was asked of her. Aodukini. The aodukini is a creature made entirely of darkness, and it has one rule. The more you stare at it, the bigger it gets. It starts small, a shape in the corner or the end of a hallway, easily dismissed. But every second of frightened attention feeds it, and it grows, expanding to fill the space between you and the exit, between you and safety, between you and the door. Look away entirely, and it disappears. Its direct counterpart, the gusundi, works on the opposite principle. It vanishes when light is shown on it rather than when ignored. But the aodukini is specifically about the gaze, about the terrified human instinct to stare at the thing that scares you, and how that staring is exactly the mechanism of your own destruction. It has no fixed form, because it is your fear that gives it shape. Whatever your worst imagining produces is what you see growing in the dark in front of you. It is one of the most psychologically precise creatures in any mythology anywhere, a folktale that understood something about fear that took the rest of the world considerably longer to articulate. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.